The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Beware your host, Jonathan Holmes.
I think you're turning yourself up on purpose during that to start to scare me again, because it's been almost 3 years we've been doing this Star. That terrified me that time. And Magnus SoulEye Pålsson, how are you? Pålsson? Is that how I pronounce it?
Pålsson. Well, whatever. Pålsson. You can say Pålsson, like Paul McCarthy, and add S-O-N. So.
Got it. Or Robert Pålsson from the world-famous film Fight Club. How was your holiday? We're back from the holidays, Sup Holmes, back with you, 2015. Feels fantastic. How did things go for you this Christmas?
Well, I had a nice time with my family, and went out clubbing a little bit, and also went over the New Year's Eve. I went to Denmark and Copenhagen, met up with some lovely people, and celebrated. Yeah,
that sounds fantastic, huh?
Yeah.
That is great. I got some gifts. I don't know if I want to call them gifts. AAA publishers sent me Christmas cards, and I try to immediately delete that from my mind, like the film Men in Black 2, which is the finest of the trilogy. It's not, really. But you want to forget that they try to butter you up when they do this, because you don't want to even have a subconscious positive association with any company after they've sent you a card, because you might accidentally give their game, 3 happy points higher, or 0.3 happy points on your review later. So I try to forget that, but I do remember when nice people send me things. Potato Man, the Pixel Jam, these guys, they sent me this little Potato Man statue, which is very cute. And a guy named David Cieslik, I believe it's pronounced, we've never met in real life, he sent me Young Justice Lego. I think that's Spider-Man 2099 Lego. And this book. So thanks so much, David. You sent me Brian Lee O'Malley, creator of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, his original comic book about depression and being in a car, which is such a nice holiday treat. What did you get? Did you get anything awesome, Magnus?
I didn't get any depression. I didn't get any potato stuff. I love that game. Like
Potato Man?
The Search for Truth.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Great.
See, they are buttering me up with this, but I'm never going to review their game, so it's okay. At least in my mind. Hopefully it's okay.
Find
out later, I guess.
Yeah, like I've searched for the truth, and I found it, and yeah, it's great. So here's something I got from my sister.
Oh, wow.
So she framed the covers of my releases, which is really nice.
That is...
So there's the V soundtrack, there's the Power Up and Adventure, which has the Talking to Women About Video Games song on it.
It sure does, which you did. And then the latest is...
The latest full album is the metal rendition of P.
Pretty awesome. And yes, again, as we were saying before the show, thank you so much for contributing to the old Talking to Women About Video Games album from years ago. I didn't know you from a hole in the wall, but I hoped that my Destructoid clout would trick you into helping me do an album that was really just a bizarre vanity piece. I was just really excited about maybe getting all of my favorite game developer composers, along with fans of this weird show I did on Destructoid for a while, to come together and make a giant album. And it's got I can't remember, 50 songs on it or something. In part thanks to you, because you added clout with your cover, which you then put on Adventure, which is an excellent CD filled with bits of comedy and a soaring, sweeping, epic. Epic. Oof, you don't want to overuse that term, but this is a time when it truly applies. The songs make you feel stuff, like you are, in fact, on an adventure, which is the name of the album. Very fitting.
Well, I try to make upbeat, happy music most of the time to just make people feel good. Music is a language of emotions, I guess. And
sure is.
Communicates all the happiness in my brain into your brain. That's the end goal of all the music.
Right. Is that what's always attracted you to creating music? Is that you want to put an emotion from here into somebody else's head without having to use necessarily words or other things where meaning can get lost. Music, it's kind of like a telepathic, direct connection you can make with it.
Yeah, there's little like interpretation you have to do with words. Most of my songs don't have any lyrics, so it's just a song, and you know, it carries truth, potato truth.
This is turning into such a fun Potato Man themed episode by accident. That's always good. And then what did you get into writing music in general?
So it started really early. My parents had a piano hanging around in their living room, and I would play some piano just for fun. But when I get to computer music, my dad had one of his first few portable laptops, I guess you could call it. It had like a tiny LCD screen like this, and it was just black and white. It was horrible. It was called the Epson HX20. And if any of you want to Google that up, you can find it and be like, holy crap, is that even, are you kidding me? You know, and yeah, it had like one beeper sound that you can like, you can adjust how long it's going to beep and what pitch it's going to be. That's all. It was terrible. But I made like little ditties with that.
How did you make ditties on that? Did they have a music program for it, or did you just get in there and figure it out yourself?
Well, I found the manual, and there was command language, like a basic DOS or something like that. It wasn't DOS, but something like it. So you'd say like sound 1, 1, and that'd be like 1 would be the pitch, and the next comma would be the length of that note. So then you would have data sets that go 1, 1, 2, 1, and that'd sound like do. And you have like ranges and ranges of data like that, and if you messed up somewhere, like, oh, that should be actually one different, you have to go through, like, look through these scores of ones, and it's just a mess.
So you had a piano in the house. So that was one potential outlet you had for creativity, for musical ideas. And you also had this, maybe calling it a computer is exaggerating. It almost sounds like an electronic typewriter that could beep and listen to you a little bit when you...
It had a little, you could actually, it had a printer built in.
Right, I know exactly what you mean.
Like a receipt printer. Like, it was made for just making these calculations, like,
it was not intended to be a music creating device, and yet you decided. Not. What do you think it was about you that made you decide that you wanted to create music with this thing?
I think it was just curiosity of trying things out. I actually didn't know that I was going to make any substantial amount of living with music at that time. I was just like, look at this thing, and oh, it makes sounds. That's funny, and like blah blah blah, and I keep going at it. It wasn't. I don't have anything left from that era. There's nothing saved. It wasn't until, let me see here. Well, I had a Commodore 64, but I was just like, I'm done with that coding stuff to make music. So it wasn't until I got the Amiga, then I got like, I have 4 channels, and I can, like, there's easy to make music in a tracker. Oh my God, I gotta try this, and I tried that, and like fucking loved it. So I got the tracker program off of a computer magazine called CU Amiga, like I think Computer User Amiga. It's defunct.
Sure.
Now, but so I got the CD. I loaded up, and like you could it came with a song, and I can load a song, use the samples, and then I wanted to save it. And like, oh, I don't have no place to save it. Disk space was an issue. So I'm like, I'll have to delete some files off of this disk and corrupting stuff, and like it was a mess. Like saving stuff on floppies. I'm so glad that time is done and over.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm nostalgic for it at times. I actually dug up over the holidays. I saw a bunch of my old Commodore 64 discs, like Karatika, which they actually printed the address of Broderbund, I think, who made that on the disc. It was awfully cute. I wish game developers did that today. But for people who don't know what we're talking about, the Amiga, the follow-up to the Commodore 128, I think, was maybe on par with what a NES could do, a Famicom. Though it was a computer in that it had a floppy disk drive, and a monitor and a keyboard. I think the keyboard might have actually been built into the computer. But this was not easy to make music on, this thing. Again, the piano would have been probably easier, and yet you seem to be continually drawn to this ability to use computers to make sounds in ways that maybe they weren't intended to, or maybe other people had never done before. There was no precedent for, oh yeah, I'm going to be a successful Amiga-fueled composer. There was no video game composers anyone knew the names of back then, and yet you were still motivated to move forward with it. What do you think it was about you that made you do that?
Interesting that you phrase it like what it was about me. I'm like, because I haven't really looked at me, like what differs me from everybody else in that regard. But I can tell you what I liked, what drew me to it though.
Yeah.
It was so piano. I only have so many fingers and only so much dexterity. I can only play so well. But when I can sequence stuff, I can focus a lot of intention and like make a line of melodies as just so I want it. And then I can focus on the beats, and then I can do the thing, and like and you know, some of the, or I guess all of the songs become so much more complex. I can make songs that obviously a piano can't make. The sounds, I mean, just hello, you know, it was groundbreaking at the time, you know.
Yeah.
At radio and stuff, but to create something yourself with strange synths and stuff, it's like cheap. It's like it was new. It was really new.
Yeah.
Nobody had done it really.
And that's why a lot of people were afraid to do it. People who just were thinking, well, I need to apply my time and energy into something that's going to be profitable. I can learn to write a song on the piano and sell it to Samantha Fox or Debbie Gibson. I can write the next I Want to Have Some Fun, and I'll be a rich and famous music guy. But you weren't tuned to that focus at all. It sounds like what attracted you was, like we were saying before, you wanted to put what was in here directly into other people's brains. And
well, that's now. I mean, that's just more like an after construction of what it is. But what originally, I didn't think about selling anything at all. I mean, I was young enough to just be in school and just playing around. I don't know what to do with my life, you know. Oh, this sounds fun. I'll play with this today and do something else tomorrow. So I was just in this frame of curiosity and play and just exploring stuff, and I just enjoyed it. And so there was no pressure. I was able to learn at my own pace, and it just become a fun thing. So that's how I think anybody learns anything. You have to be enjoying it, be engaged, and no pressure. Just as long as it's fun, you know. But I had nobody watching me over my shoulder to be like, "Hey Magnus, why don't you learn this and this and music theory this and practice theory that and blah blah blah." None of that. I was just given free rein to just do my own thing.
Yeah, and sounds like why people enjoy video games as well. Were you playing video games at the same time?
Yeah, so that was probably what had me be exposed to these things at all. Started out with like Nintendo Game & Watch stuff. I still have like a couple of them in my closet. Atari 2600, that old console is just, looking back now, it's just like, oh god, that's terrible. And yes, I played E.T. till the end, and you know, yeah, collective, everybody just like, oh, I'm so sorry for you, you know, like.
I could never get to the end.
How many years of therapy did you do? Like, well,
it's funny, we had someone who was on the documentary about the big ET dig not that long ago, Mike Mika, who's working on a game called IDARB. Mike Micah, sorry about that, Mike. I just get that wrong. So was the music of those games inspiring to you at that time? Did you want to listen to the music in, like, oh, I don't know, Super Mario Brothers or something, even when you weren't playing the game?
Well, I think I got mainly inspired by the Commodore 64 music. I had some heroes like Martin Galway from Whizball, that game, Rob Hubbard, Chris Hulsbeck.
They worked on LucasArts games?
No. These are like small Commodore 64 games. I'm not sure even LucasArts existed back then.
Oh, okay.
The games were Commando and Gianna Sisters, you know, and like, yeah, Whizball and stuff like that. Funny story, I went to the U.S. Recently to Austin, and out of happenstance, I met a friend of mine who made the music for Mutant Muds, and he was like, well, we were talking about how I got into music, and I mentioned like Martin Galway, for instance. He's one of the people who made music that really like had me, oh, I'll turn up the music from the TV and like open the door and like blast it out into the neighborhood until my mom says it's dinner time and please turn that down, you know?
Yeah.
So, and he says, well, it's poker night, come on. And I was like, Martin Galway will be there. I'm like, what? Really? Okay, yeah, poker. I don't play poker, but yeah, I'm gonna play poker now.
So you met him, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that you know, the perspective I'm coming from, which is being impressed that you wanted to run with electronic music way before there was any precedent for it being successful, it being something you could do for a day job and survive. I can only imagine what it was like for him, who's probably a good 10, 20 years older than you, how he got into it.
Yeah, he was, he got into it early, and he hasn't made music for a long time, but he still works in the music biz.
Huh.
So he's like manages projects and some such. But now he just wants to take a detour and start selling Tesla cars instead. Okay.
Well, it is a long life, hopefully, that we'll get to lead, and we don't have to keep doing the same thing forever. But you've been at this music thing pretty much full time for a while now. Is that right? Has this been your main occupation for some time?
Yeah, it has for about what is it, 4 years or something like that. Although recently, last few years, I have taken a little detour into other things.
Really?
Yeah, I started selling drugs. No, I mean, wait, this isn't live, right? This isn't shit.
No, it's not live. Don't worry. We'll come now. No one will know.
So,
total secret. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So you can edit that out, cursing.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I took. Speaking of talking to women about video games, I wasn't really happy how it went in that department. So I took a course in like how to relate with people.
Yeah. In
San Francisco, and that was an intense thing and blew my mind, like completely blew my mind. So I wasn't really the same person after that.
Really? This was 2 years ago, so we're talking 2012. You did that Talking to Women About Video Games album.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, 2011? I think so. Yeah. So it was probably after that. You seemed, as I was talking to you a bit on email at that time, you seemed really focused on living life as though you had no expectations and wanted to explore every aspect of life that you could while you still could. And that's why I wasn't so surprised that you're album that came out shortly after that was called Adventure, featuring a jetpack man like flying across the country in total danger, but excited at the prospect of all the things that can happen. That's how I've envisioned you as a person since then. So I've always taken you for that kind of guy. And then to hear that on top of that, you decided to take a class on learning interpersonal techniques, learning kind of the science.
Well, it's more like bringing forth the authentic self beneath like social facades and stuff for yourself and others. How to like relate in a way that creates a connection between people.
Sounds awesome. What a smart thing to care about. Yeah.
And it's like so weird that it turns out that that's a thing that can be taught. Isn't that amazing? And like, and now, like I can imagine all the like guys being like, really? Like, and how did it go with the girls? Like,
well, yeah, I can't help but be curious. On Destructoid, where I am currently, for now, editor-in-chief until I'm fired, which, you know, cross fingers, I'll make it another week. There is a thing going on in our community blogs called Name Your Fetish. So all of our readers are like listing all of their fetishes, like, you know, heavy women or lesbian sex or men dressed as women. A lot of interesting fetishes are coming out. And I wanted to write mine today, but I'm like, what is it? It's like genuine emotion and like people being really nice. Like I was the most boring, like the Boy Scout fetishes, but it's true. When people genuinely convey feeling towards each other and you believe that the feeling is real, even if they're angry or sad or happy, it's a very attractive thing to me. I've dated women who, if you were just look at them, you'd be like, well, you know, she's unattractive. But the depth of their emotion has been so compelling that I've found myself really drawn to them. It definitely works.
Yeah, you hit it spot on the head right there. That's what's going to make a relationship last, or even be juicy and engaging and have you come alive if you want. Yeah, and
sure.
If you just go by the looks of stuff and never scratch beneath the surface, like you might have a fun way, but I think there was to put it like poetically. If you never like look inside of yourself and others, you'll still can still have a good life, but you won't laugh all your laughter, and you won't cry all your tears. You'll be stepping off of like true intimacy, that shredding floor, into the seasonless world, you know, where it's like everything's kind of like, yeah, it's okay. Like,
yeah, people are so afraid of doing more than living in the seasonless world, which is such an awesome way of putting it. It can be a dry, safe world to live in where you don't really express a whole lot, and you follow the internal script of saying what you think will probably be the acceptable thing to say. You're never going to be extraordinarily loved, but you're not going to be hated. You're just going to be this lowest common denominator pleasing every man or woman, which is fine, but you'll never get those peaks and valleys, which you only get to have while you're still alive. I mean, when we're dead, we can flatline. Lowest common denominator pleasing, because we just have to please the worms at that point. But before that, why not take things to the extreme by really getting to know what's going on in our own brains, I think. Yeah.
Brains and hearts.
Yes. Hearts.
Hearts. It sounds like you want to eat it. It's like, I have a heart for dinner. Heart.
I kind of do, metaphorically. I want to really dig in there with you.
Passion, emotion.
That's what it's a metaphor for, I think. I was watching a Vampire in Brooklyn starring Eddie Murphy earlier today, and I was like, he is trying so hard to do like a metaphor for a passionate, sexy Eddie Murphy with a mullet. It didn't really work out. I don't know if you've seen that film. Didn't really
yeah, a long time ago. But I want to reconnect what you said about people want to keep it safe or like make life safe. That's a lie. You can't make life safe. Life is inherently very messy and unsafe. So the moment you think you're in very safe, you know, you're probably not safe. Anyways.
Yeah, yeah. We want to believe that, oh, if I set up this, this, and this, I'm going to live forever, and I'm never going to feel any pain, and I'm never going to have any problems. But it's only a matter of time before something bad will happen, so we might as well be real in the meantime. At least I'd hope so. It feels like we're very much on the same page, almost strangely enough on the same page. Almost
Yeah,
like
and
we finish each other's sentences.
when we are in that space, also we awaken our compassion and care for other people, which I don't think is there really if you're just trying to be safe, because then you kind of become like a hoarder. It's like, this drink is mine. You can't have it. It's mine. Don't touch my drink. Oh.
It's yeah, I'm with you 100%. I do some behavioral health therapy as well as editor-in-chief of Destructoid, which is a funny thing. I have a master's degree in social work, and one of the theories I came up with for people is you're going to have one of three motivators. I think I might have talked about this on the show before, like emptiness, which is just like a lack of feeling, and you want to fill the emptiness with something. That can be hunger, that can be lust. Yeah. Then you can have love and connecting with other people, which involves empathy and compassion and getting out of your own head and being in somebody else's and seeing things from their perspective, be it through music or writing. And then you have fear, which is related to anger and other stuff, which really blocks. It can be very energizing, and you can get a lot done with fear. When I'm afraid I'm going to miss a deadline, I'll get tons of crap done. But if I had to be empathetic towards somebody else while I was in a fear state, I'd probably end up doing a less good job of it, though they can all overlap. You can be bored and kind of afraid at the same time. You can be in love with someone and also afraid that they're going to break your heart, which will make a very nice dramatic tension happen that you'll probably never forget. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. Getting in touch with the compassion, though, and the real compassion, not being a slave to fear, which causes you to put up walls and not connect with people out of not wanting to put yourself in emotional danger, that can really lead to some boring times, to say the least.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, so waking up to all these things, I kind of realized, shit, I've been missing out on stuff. You know, I really, in a profound way. So. But now that I have access to all of it, I'm like, how do I teach this to people? How do I bring this way of being so that more people can have the choice, whether to be like, well, actually, sounds a bit too intense for me. I like my drink. I'm going to hide behind my drink forever. Thank you. Or we go on a little adventure and see how deep the rabbit hole goes, right?
So that's what you've been up to lately?
I've been conspiring. I've done a lot of back-end work. I'm not a programmer, but I do want to have a game made. So I'm actually in the process of looking for a coder to help me out with this.
Really?
I want to make a computer game that fosters authentic connections, and it'll be like a Skype chat or something like that, like this, maybe integrated with the Google Hangouts perhaps or something, and I'm going to gamify social interactions like this. So it'll be, let's say you and I start talking, and the game will prompt us with an exercise to do, and we'll play that exercise, and then we amongst ourselves decide who won, and whoever wins is the one who's the most honest, intellectually and emotionally, and at higher levels even vulnerably. So that'd be...
Whoa!
Yeah.
When did you have that idea? That is awesome.
Yeah, that was about the time after that workshop, like a couple of weeks after. I was just like... I was in this like amazed state where I was in touch with my sensations, like bodily sensations. I was lying in the bathtub in Las Vegas at some hotel and just thinking about stuff, and then it's like oh, eureka, I have it. And I jumped out of the, like symbolically, out of the bathtub, like, yes, I have it. I know it. And I'm like, I know what I want to do. It was this like a weird sensation of like, oh, I now know my purpose for being here on this earth. In a way that hit me harder than anything else I've ever done. Not even music had that pull. So it's really, it's hard to say no when your heart and your brain kind of aligns on something. It's like, okay, well, okay, I hear you calling. I guess it's time then. No more fiddling about in the seasonless world. It's time to do this shit. So yeah, I've got all the rules worked out, and I kind of basic layout how I want it to look, and I'm just like need people to help me code it.
Would that be something you would turn to Kickstarter for? Because you do have a pretty sizable, like people, I put this post up on Destructoid. It's a slow day on Sunday. I think our traffic is generally pretty low. But within minutes of putting it up, people are like, oh my God, that's my favorite soundtrack. Like you have people whom know you and feel as though they know you personally because your music is so evocative, who would follow you and want to support you in this. But it is risky when you do Kickstarter. Talking before, you were talking about how working on music on the computer, you didn't have somebody breathing over your neck saying, oh, you have to do it this way, Magnus, blah, blah, blah. You got to play freely. Once you do Kickstarter, it's not your project anymore. You are now the employee of however many people back you, and it can really change how the creative process feels. So pros and cons to that. I don't know what you think.
Well, first, I think a working prototype shouldn't be that hard to make. The main work just becomes like inserting all the exercises that I know of, and like, yeah, and just making a working prototype, not that hard. But yeah, since Kickstarter has come to Sweden, I'm like, yeah, I can use Kickstarter. And just like any good idea, I think it's not enough to have a good idea in here. It has to be out in the world and like have the people taste it and squeeze on it and tinker and help. So if there's a bunch of people having a lot of input, that's just a good thing, because ultimately, I guess what do you call it, the market or the people who are going to play it are going to have a lot to say, and that's going to be valuable input. So I'm fully aware and expecting how I envision the game to change over time, but exactly how I won't really know until we get out there. But I'm excited to get out there and start having this conversation with people.
Awesome. And it is about, and just to make sure I have it straight, it isn't about you empathizing and relating with some fictional non-playable character. It is about you being honest and fully emotionally present with another human being, but with the game being kind of a lubricant slash assessment tool to see how honest and present you were. Is that right?
Yeah. The game won't judge you. So it's going to be you judge each other. Like, so let's say you and I play the game, and you're just like, well, actually you won that one, and it's like, okay, then you go up the ladder and I go down it. But I want also people. I don't want to force people to play the game a certain way. It'd be more like cream rises to the top kind of thing. If you have education or experience or just like natural talent, then you'll naturally go upwards very quickly, and you'll be playing with people at your level. So you'll get to have interactions where people are really good. And that should motivate people at the lower rungs of the ladder to be like, yeah, I want to get up there and play that guy. So if I get better at this, maybe I can like have consistent interactions with people like you or me or somebody else who's at a different plateau in their lives.
But what you are skilled at in this game is just being really honest emotionally and expressive.
Yeah, well, so as the game continues, you do level up. But you don't have a character. Like, if there's a character, it's you. You're evolving yourself. So it'll become a platform for evolving yourself. So it'll be one of those. It's almost, I hate this word, edutainment. Like, disgusting word. It's just like, oh, you mean totally boring, and nobody wants to play it ever, and it's got dumb graphics, and it's only playing school. Oh. Fuck. Why did I say it? No.
This is something that's come up before. We had Aaron Reynolds, who is making a game called Nevermind, which is a game about regulating your own emotions. You have to put like sensors, I believe, on it, and she's going to try to get it to work with Kinect as well. It's a horror game, but if you let yourself get more afraid, the game gets scarier, and then you end up snowballing. So you have to like learn to manage your own anxiety. And she's like, so it's about self-improvement, and it's about fun. But calling it edutainment just makes everyone feel like it's there to try to trick them into learning.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Like, let's move on. Okay, cut. This isn't live, right?
Oh yeah, the editing. This isn't live. You're fine. Nobody's seen any of this.
Nobody saw that. Forget. Okay.
That's what I try to do when Activision sends me a Christmas card. Don't like them. Don't hate them either. Have no feelings about big faceless corporations.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, so as we play the game, we win or we lose or whatever, and after a certain amount of games where you've won, you'll increase in level. Like, I want to gamify it, so there'll be like achievements and levels and a shop where you can buy power-ups and use stuff like that. But as you increase in levels, somebody will you'll get a new rule that you have to play by. For instance, you can't make any lies. For instance, you can't lie about your age or your ethnicity or whatever. Like, even if it's in plain sight. If I told you I'm 200 years old, and you'd be like, "Yeah, that's funny, Magnus," and you just lost. You know.
Sure.
So then it like ends instant like there, and then it gets hard. The more and more difficult rules, such as don't make assumptions about the other person, and don't make judgments about the other person. Like, check your assumptions and be present in the moment. Don't talk about things outside of this conversation. Keep it to relational between you and me, and stuff like that. So it just piles on and on. So as you practice one of these rules, it becomes easier and easier, and then it becomes second nature not to encroach on other people's boundaries, because you'll be like, yeah, and suddenly you'll be like, oh, there's this pop that happens where you kind of realize, oh, I'm my own person. I am free now from other people's things, because I can tell when people are using their judgments or assumptions. And be like, I never thought that was the thing. And then we're like, whoa, this is trippy. And then that's like, if somebody has this like popping moment where it's like, oh my God, what's this thing done to me? Like that's where I go like, excellent. Like, that's kind of a goal, like to have people wake up out of detrimental social conditioning and stuff like that. It's like to get in contact with themselves. And yeah,
amazing. Video games have this capacity to help us to go from one place, both in the virtual world of the game, but also one place in terms of our skill level to another, to slowly get better at things, to develop muscle memory, to develop strategies that we can end up applying without having to think about it anymore. Like you said, it just becomes second nature to, oh, I know the jump physics on 1001 spikes or VVVVVV. I think I got the. So you get a feel for it without having to think about it, and then stack upon those skills that you now kind of have hardwired into you and build even more skills. It's usually done with physical, tactile things, not so much this more amorphous, difficult to pin down emotional world, but the same thinking could definitely apply once you get used to having your baseline level of interaction not be to see other people as something you're supposed to step on in order to feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
That doesn't actually get you anywhere. Once you learn to no longer do that without even deciding to have that no longer be natural to you, so much can be built from there.
Yeah, and one of the things that I hope to achieve for people is that they are able to come to any interaction as if they've never had that interaction before. So that there are many, many, many people who have routines that they do every day, and even like thoughts they have every day, and they always the same shows or like same work or the same conversations with their spouses or friends or whatever, and it's always about stuff and not about people. And if you get to a place where I've met you a billion times, and there's always something new to explore about you in this moment, and getting to that place where you're kind of like, yeah, this is new, because it is. Like if somebody says something and maybe you've heard the words a million times, but you haven't really heard it in this moment in that particular way. And what are the particular ways in that person is speaking right now? What is like this sub-communication? Like, is there something in the tone of voice that's coming forth that's a little different than normally? Or is he like nodding his head in an understanding way? Or is he like crazy? I don't understand. Or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And getting more aware and like sharpening your perceptive tools, so that in the end you not only know yourself, but you also become almost like a human lie detector.
Yeah, that's true too. Definitely, if you practice and with experience, learn what ends up coming next. Being in the moment, of course, is so important, but then to record, well, this is what happened in that moment, that moment, that moment, and that led to this outcome. So how can I, if you end up having a good desired outcome or an outcome you wanted, how can you replicate all those moment-to-moment experiences, or at least, go about things in a similar enough way, not to the point where you're just following a craft blueprint, which is always what's risky. Is you don't want to end up just creating a new script in trying to get rid of your old script. It sounds like you really want to try to move forward towards continual scriptlessness.
Yes.
New word. Yes.
Totally. That's perfectly put. Yeah.
No, what kind of you to say?
Yeah, I mean, because if you're not doing that, you can kind of, if you want to go scripted in conversations, people are gonna see it very quickly and be like, yeah, is there anybody in there? Is this?
They call it small talk here in the United States.
Person?
Yeah, it's a term.
Yeah, I've heard of that, and when I see it, I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of uncomfortable,
It really is, but people don't know how to get out of it. They feel trapped in this small talk, fear-based, don't want to mess up and say a wrong thing. So in doing so, they say the wrong thing, which is the most boring thing.
Yes.
They are the mediocre sitcoms of conversation. Everyone likes it a little bit, but nobody loves it.
Yeah.
Step by step. Social skills. Painful.
Have 1,000 cuts.
Well, I could go on and on about this all day, and I wouldn't mind if we did, but I know a lot of people tuning in or checking it out, do want to know about your music career as well. And we were on that track before. We didn't quite get to how you ended up breaking into making music for a living. How did that end up happening?
Well, I started, so after I had a couple of songs done, I thought, the guy I bought the music program I'm using from, he provided free web hosting for some songs, some like 20 megabytes of web hosting, whatever. So I'm like, well, that's fun. So I uploaded some of my songs, and a friend of Terry Kavanagh, who made V, for those who don't know, he emailed me and said, hey, I like that song. Can I use it in my game? And I wasn't considering any music business or whatever, so I was like, sure, you take it, whatever. Like, that's fun. Like, I'm working at IKEA like a Swedish person should do. Like, it's okay, whatever. I don't know, whatever. So I told him, just send me a copy of the game when it's done. And it was Charlie Knight who made the game, and the game, when it plopped into my email box a month later, was called Space Phallus. So
I've heard of Space Phallus. So this wasn't V yet. This was something else.
Yeah, this is how it kind of started.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Space Phallus? Wait a minute. I know that word. That's Greek for oh no. Okay, so I open it up and like, oh yeah. You play a sawed-off dog's head, raining hot death onto evil attacking space genitalia.
Is this a real game?
Yeah.
I thought I heard the name before, but I don't think I've ever played it. I probably would have remembered that. Is this wait, Cactus, didn't they?
Who? What?
The creators? No, that's something else.
This
the
is
guys
Charlie
who did.
Knight.
This
He
is
also-
Charlene Knight.
He did what's that? He did a bullet hell game.
Yeah. What's it called?
Scoregasm.
Scoregasm, that's right. He does have a tendency to move towards genitalia as opposed to away. A lot of us, we see genitalia we don't know, and we move away. Charlie Knight, he moves
What's
towards
that?
it.
Get away from me. Let's talk about video games, woman.
Not Charlie Knight, though. He's right in the phallus.
Yeah, it's like, it's right in there.
Yeah, he's all about it. I've got to get him on the show one of these days. Scoregasm's a very good game. It's reminds me a little bit of R-Type Final, though it's completely different at the same time.
Yeah.
But long story short. So he made Space Phallus.
Yeah. So, and Terry Kavanagh is friends with Charlie Knight, so obviously the developers play their buddies' games, and he's like, I like the song in the first level of this game. Like, who made this song? Like, found me. I was like, hey, I've got this freeware game that I'm gonna make. Do you want to make music for it? So I'm like, sure. This sounds like fun. You know, it's like, whatever. So I was like, but this time, you know, I think I should get paid. And like, okay, what do you want? I want $6 per song.
You charge $6 per song?
Something like that.
And how long was each song? Was it a 6-second song? $1 a second?
Like, we were talking about the whole V soundtrack. Yeah, it's like,
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
stop.
because I was doing all the music in my spare time. I was thinking, well, this isn't going anywhere. I'm just doing this for fun and love of it because I like doing it. You know, I wasn't even. And it was going to be a free game as well, so I don't want to charge the guy. He doesn't have any money, and you know, to be fair, like Terry has written about this publicly on his blog, so I'm not divulging anything that isn't public information. Right?
Sure. So at that time, V was going to be a free game, and all of Terry's games were free up until that point, if I remember correctly. But still, composers, oftentimes, writing complex, it's not like you were just doing single-track songs. The V soundtrack is quite multi-layered. They're charging $100 a minute. They're demanding royalties and whatnot. And you were going for $6 a song, and how many songs are on the V soundtrack again?
Well, about 10 or something like that.
So it was like $60. You got to like buy the new Call of Duty by.
Yeah. Nowadays I'm a bit more expensive. Like,
well, that's good to hear, as you should be. So that was, and then later V was Terry decided to sell it. So did that change the financial situation?
Yeah. So I got a little cut of the profits, and he wanted to do then, like, he bought exclusive rights for usage of those songs in the game V, which then, like, I got like paid handsomely. No, well, not handsomely, but like a fair price for that. So yeah, it worked out nicely then. So that's how, like, it was like, and then, but then even so, that was like not enough to like to pay for a month's salary or anything like that. But when the royalties started dipping in, because V became such a successful game, even though it's an underdog to like Super Meat Boy, for instance, or whatever.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Then there was still so many people buying it that there was royalties, and I'm like, wait, this is weird. I don't have to work at IKEA for 6 months and still can pay rent. This is
because of those 10 or 20 songs that you wrote months ago at this point. And I saw, if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at Metacritic, doing a little research for the show because I wrote a post about it on Destructoid, and V was the #1 iPhone iPad game for Metacritic. It won their best iPhone iPad game because it just got the best reviews. They go strictly by review score averages, and here we are 5 years later, and hopefully it's still selling on those platforms as well, as it's so well reviewed.
Yeah, there was Metacritic had some glitch recently, so V is actually the game of the year again. Yeah,
I don't know if it's a glitch. They treat your relationship with a game like math, and they really think, well, if such and such people, said that they loved this game, then it is just the best game again. We don't care what year it came out. It just is the best if the numbers say that it is. It's like feelings as calculated by math, and it doesn't quite work, but it works for me because I love your game, and it was exciting for me to see it get even more attention. I am frustrated that it is an underdog compared to your Binding of Isaacs and your Super Meat Boys. As great as those games are, there's something about V, the people who like it absolutely love it, and more people are trying it all the time, but it didn't have that kind of mainstream penetration, as Charlie Knight would say. But maybe I'm wrong about that. That's how it's looked to me. But has it taken off in a big way since then?
Nah. Well, after the release, there was like a big spike, of course, but it's been tapering off fairly rapidly. There was some spikes as it was featured in the Humble Bundle 3 and some other places. Recently, there was a fun thing that happened. Terry worked something out with Apple, and Apple worked out something with Starbucks, and V became Game of the Week for Starbucks, and they would hand out little cards with codes on them on the back, so you can punch in the code and get a copy of V.
When was that? Was that recently?
Yeah, it's like a month or so.
Son of a gun. I want to track it down. I have one of those for, I think, Sonic 4. Sonic the Hedgehog 4, which ended up on iPhone. I just thought it was funny that they put them on a card at Starbucks, but they did that for V. That's so cool.
I'm not sure if there's any money involved, but just like the fun factor of it, just so much fun, So I'm like, every Starbucks like that? Starbucks is all over the world. Like So I just called up a friend of mine who lives in the U.S. and I'm like, could you just go pop down to the Starbucks and see if they got any cards or for games? I just wanted to see if you found something interesting, check a few cards. I might want a card. And he was like, the next day he called me up like, dude, what the fuck, man? They're fucking. Well, okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. But
That's
it
all
was
American
fun. It was
stock. No,
fun.
that was very good American impersonation. So how does it feel to know that so many people, I'm guessing in the hundreds of thousands, Notch, creator of Minecraft, he created a V level, which is actually in the 3DS version. I think it's in a lot of different versions. You can play that. You know that multimillionaires have played your game. You know that hundreds of thousands of people, maybe close to 1 million, have played it, maybe over 1 million. How's that feel?
It doesn't feel. It's mind-boggling in some ways, because all of those people are like faceless numbers of data almost. So I'm like, when trying to think of these people who have heard the music, I was like, well, who can I imagine? You know, who are these people? I don't know.
Yeah.
Trying to. Could you contemplate the infinite vastness of space? Like, no, not really. Like,
Right.
I have to use a lot of imagination here. Like, but it's cool. Like, I made the music for Extreme Road Trip as well, a little afterwards. And that game soared up to #1 spot on iTunes for a while, and it had over 10 million downloads.
What? I've never even heard of it. Extreme Road Trip. What the heck is that?
You have a little car, you drive to the right, side-scrolling, you jump over little bumps in the road, and you rotate your car and then you get like, when you rotate enough, and then you try to land with your wheels flat on the ground, and if you do that perfectly, you get a little more fuel, and you can go a little further. It's a very simple game. Loads of people played it. Like millions and millions. It's like 10 million downloads. So I'm like, okay, so by now there's probably been about, maybe, I'm just guessing here, but like, say 20 million people have heard my music. It's just like,
you might go to, I don't know if you like to play out shows as some people do, get on stage and turn on your sequencers and whatnot and manually operate them. But if you were to do a show like that, I'd imagine you'd look out in the crowd and see 100, maybe 200 people, fairly big venue, then multiply that by 100,000, you know, like 100,000 of those venues. I can't even picture 100,000. I need to break it down even smaller than that, and picture like maybe a football stadium, and then picture 200 of those or what have you.
Yeah. I can't. It's like,
you can't fathom it. Yeah.
Vastness of space, impossible. Brain,
and
brain
all of those, and they have brains, and the synapses are firing. Electricity in their brain is changing because of the sounds that you made, and a little bit of your electricity is going into their brain, so to speak, because they're ending up feeling the way you felt in some capacity when you created that music. You did that.
Yes. Like, I was like, yes, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. Yay.
Yeah, every day.
I did. Win.
Of course, this didn't happen today. This happened years ago. But I don't know. I don't think it hurts to wake yourself up to what you've accomplished, because it is easy to forget. Our brains are programmed to not just stay in those moments of success all the time, because then we would never try anything again, because it's like, I'm a winner, I don't need to try. But every once in a while to remember, oh yeah, 20 million people have probably listened to music that I made, so I've done pretty well for myself.
Yeah, and some of them are just like musical drive-bys. You know, they've like played, that was fun, whatever. Like, it's not, everybody goes like, I'm gonna plug in my earphones, and like oh, this is great. I'm just gonna pause it right here and listen. Like that.
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
But some people, yeah.
But yeah, and it's, you know, Extreme Road Trip was a free game with in-app purchases. You could buy cars and whatever, unlock stuff.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter if it's just a very tiny percentage of people who really dig it and support you by buying your stuff. It just matters. There's some like volume. You just need a big volume, and then it's like, give me that tiny percentage. And you got fans that are like, are like-minded, who connect with you on the same emotions you want to create when you make music. It's like, bingo, there's your fan base, right? And
Sure.
so when there's enough volume, you don't have to be mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can do your own thing. So I'm happy to say that I've been able to do my own thing for this time, and I haven't. There's been none of that like record company forcing me to do a mainstream song or whatever.
Sure. No desperation, no pressure, just truly getting to follow what your whims might be. And but that hasn't led to a ton, if I'm not mistaken. There was Extreme Road Trip V, recent game, Respawn Man, which is on Steam Greenlight right now. I haven't played it. I've watched the video of it. The music's my favorite part so far. The soundtrack's on Bandcamp. People can check that out. But what other games have you done in the past few years? Am I missing any?
Yeah, there's actually not that many, as you point out. Mainly because I took that diversion and be like, brain fried. I have to do this other thing now.
Sure.
And part of it is also that I made some music for some games that ended up not happening.
Oh no.
Or I was going to do music for a fan game for Mega Man 2.5D.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I didn't know that you were potentially linked to that, and that there's still and no longer, because the game is that canceled? It seemed to be in kind of limbo over the past.
The game was in limbo for a while, and then they got it going again. In a couple of days before release, they just no, we're just gonna go with original music anyway.
What? So it did come out. I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, well, there's some beta release thing. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's the way it goes. So I have some unreleased stuff, so it's sitting on my hard drive for. It's one of those things so the music I have could work for another game, and maybe I should hold on to it for a little while and see if it can fit into some other game that comes along, and it becomes this weird thing where not everything is just blasted out to the general internet population for
Sure. Well, I'm still, you have to forgive me, I'm still puzzling over the fact that I don't know if it was because you were charging a ton of money and they ran out so they couldn't pay you.
No. This was actually one of the projects where I'm Mega Man, fuck yeah.
Well, I was thinking it's a fan project, so they probably weren't trying to make any money off it. Sometimes people can.
And I wasn't charging either for that, because that was it was such a good quality of the game looked so good, and it's and it was free, and everybody's just chipping in for free, and so I'm I don't need to charge you guys anything for that. Maybe I can charge for the soundtrack or
Sure.
pay what you want or whatever on Bandcamp or something like that, but nope.
My goodness. Well, as a fan of yours, I am sad they made that decision. I can't imagine, as much as I love the Mega Man music, and I do love almost all of it, not quite all of it, but so much of it, I already have it. And if I want to turn off the music on Mega Man 2.5D, I will do that and then just play upteenth time. I'll listen to Metal Man and Airman and whatever. But to have original SoulEye music, that is a prestige point, if you ask me. Jeez.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I don't hold a grudge or anything.
Yeah, I see that, but it is hurtful to be present in the moment with your emotion. I am going to be present and announce that I am resentful towards those game developers, and I mean them no harm, but I do want them to know that they've bothered me at the very least by making that decision. You guys, Jeez Louise. We do have some questions that have come in. We're about 27 minutes till the end of the show, so we have some time. But I do like to involve the viewers when I can, as quickly as I can. And we missed an episode last week due to scheduling conflict and the holiday and whatnot. So if you've stuck with us, even though we missed a week, thank you so much. Kev asks, have you ever found yourself needing to make music for a deadline and realized you were rushing yourself to finish and making music you weren't happy with? Has that ever happened to you?
No.
That's good news. You have been choosy about your projects, and is that something you've deliberately decided to do? If somebody's to say to you, well, SoulEye, we can pay you $100,000 to make the music for Babies in the Basket 5, a new, free-to-play, blah, blah, blah. But you need to get the music done this month, and it's got to meet our standards, and we have full right to tell you you need to write the whole thing over again if we don't like it. Your life is going to be living hell for a month dealing with these bureaucrats who don't have any soul, but they want to control what actual musicians do, but you'll get all this money. Have you made a conscious decision to run away or at least to stay away from projects like that?
No, not really. Sorry, it's like I don't mean to be like, nope, and they're like,
no. The most
it's just like, well, no, actually, no, it never happens.
Huh? Have developers been coming to you wanting you to compose for them, and you've had to turn any away?
There's been like a few where we couldn't agree on like compensation.
Sure.
There was some who like if there was a couple. I don't want to name names, but
of course.
Just to speak generally, if somebody has said like, well, we have this like classic cult game and we have an email list of like 1 million people, and they're ready to really blast things, and then they wouldn't give me any royalties at all or whatever. Like I'd give a little money, but like no royalties. I'm like,
Yeah, you've got to put some value on yourself, and what is an extension of you is this work that you make. And
sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
There's this. I like royalties because of the fact that it makes me invested in the game. And so, I mean, I can like a game and want to be inspired by the game, but there's something about getting a royalty that has me being engaged and like really wanting to have it succeed. Like people like, not to trick ourselves, we humans are fueled by incentives. So, and somewhere there's
and I think we also function. Sorry to interrupt you. I think we're cause and effect beings, and we feel like it's fair when, I created music for a project, and then the project did really well. Well, it probably did really well, at least in part, because of my contribution. So if I get paid well afterwards, then I feel like that's fair. Whereas if the game bombs, then I can think, well, maybe I didn't do a good enough job, and it's okay that I don't get paid as much. What can I learn from that?
Yeah, and but then again, so there is an interesting dynamic that plays out, that if a developer knows that they have a successful game on their hands, or it's gonna be successful no matter what, because of some position they have or whatever, then there's gonna be a ton of musicians lining up to make the music very cheap or for free or whatever, just to get the foot in the door, and then hopefully like get paid later with some other game.
Sure.
And so that is kind of how it goes. So I mean, demanding a royalty can sometimes lose out to somebody who's equally skilled and who would just be like, well, I'm happy with getting a flat rate for whatever, and then like, okay, cool, but
sure.
So I can see both sides of the coin, Ideally, there'll be a conversation where everybody gets what they want, and it's different from everybody. Not everybody is in a position where they can walk away from projects, and some developers don't even have resources, and like it's always always a discussion and conversation to be had. And
Well, I'd
nothing
imagine
really-
if somebody were to say to you, well, I'm $100,000 in debt, and I want your music so badly, and I would love to give you royalties, but first I need to, like, you know, not pass my debt on to my children and be able to eat sometime this year. That would be very different than if somebody's like, well, we got the rights to Adventures of Lolo, and it's going to be a huge hit, and because it's going to be such a big hit, we don't want to pay you anything. You're lucky to be able to make music for us. That's something I couldn't help but be turned away from. As much as I love Lolo as much as the next guy, and who doesn't? But still, you don't want to be treated poorly in this ugly business world that we're often in, whether we want to be there or not.
Yeah, well, it's like, I think, yeah, the rule is just like, don't be an asshole. Like, be nice, be creative, be available, and like be willing, and
Sure.
you know.
That is a great rule. Don't be an asshole. I think, if I could be remembering wrong, a new writer, or sort of new, for Destructoid, Nero, the creator of Destructoid, had this idea. I don't know if you read Electronic Gaming Monthly growing up. It's a video game magazine.
No.
No, okay. Maybe I might have only been in the United States. They had an anonymous editor named Sushi X, which I always wondered, like, are they Japanese, or is this kind of racially stereotyping? Yeah. But nobody knew who it was, and then it turned out to actually be a bunch of different writers, and sometimes it would be an actual game developer. Anyone could just take that name and write whatever they wanted for this magazine. It was kind of like the first anonymous internet user was Sushi X. And Destructoid's owner, Nero, said we should do that. So he started this new account that I helped name called The Badger. And The Badger wrote one of our most popular stories of like the past couple months. Only one story. They're already one of our most popular writers. The crux of the story was, don't be an asshole. That's like all they were trying to say. And people were like, what a great idea! Like they were retweeting it and stuff like that. Don't be an asshole. It doesn't really matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or, you know, if you like video games about butts or you like video games about boobs. Just don't be a jerk to each other. That's all we have to do. Is this revelation for people. It felt pretty great for them, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that message got out there.
Me too. And if you ever want to...
So it's like sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on a big secret that not everybody knows. And, you know.
Well, how do you... It's more so... How do you convey that secret? Like, I have tried to tell, you know, being a Destructoid for... since 2008, it's been 6 years, you bump into people who are being mean to each other, regardless of what political or what video game or whatever side of an argument they're on. You're like, hey, don't be a jerk. And then they'll immediately say, well, you're the jerk, and you've accomplished nothing. It's very hard to convey the idea. Successfully.
The trick is to be curious about them and what it's like to be them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, like, ask questions enough, then be like, well, I've never, at some point, if they're willing to indulge in like questions and having some attention and curiosity, they'll be like, well, I actually never thought of it that way. That's how it typically ends up.
Sure.
If you're feeling bold, you want to mindfuck with somebody, you can just like go out of a town with your friends or something and choose a victim, and one by one, stretched out over the day, you go up to them, the one who was like, hey, I just thought I'd let you know that you're not fooling anybody. You know, we don't.
There's somebody who's been,
you think you've tricked everybody, but no. We know. I know.
That confidence is so disarming, and we all feel like maybe there's things about us that if people knew, they wouldn't like it, and then somehow he knows.
Yeah. This is like this like, I mean, so many people go around like, I hope nobody finds out I'm a fraud.
Oh yeah, fraud. Yeah, there's a term for that. I can't remember what it's called. Not fraud detection. That's something that's in dive kick. Fraud complex, I think, where when you have a big success, you feel like, well, I didn't deserve this. And it can feel like uncomfortable, actually. Like I shouldn't be getting this money. I should donate all of it to somebody else because I don't deserve to be successful.
Yeah, so low self-esteem stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just kind of having a fixed, it is low self-esteem that has a fixed identity of like, well,
Yeah.
I am an underdog who never wins. And then suddenly you win, you're like, this is scary. I don't know who I am. I don't know how to interact with people.
Yeah.
It'd be strange to have success
totally.
finally happen.
And when you want it, so anybody who wants some sort of success, they kind of and they actually stand to get it. They actually have to become another person. A person who isn't used to being, say, rich, for instance, will, upon getting a lot of money, spend it all or lose it all.
Sure.
Or be tricked out of it. As the saying goes, like, when a man with money meets a man with experience, the man with the experience ends up with the money, and the man
who had the money now has experience.
Yes.
Yeah, this is business in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah,
I wonder which side of the coin I'm on at this point. Retrofraction asks, what would you like to be remembered as 20 years from now? So now we're shooting off to the year 2035, which I can't believe we will most likely live that long, but we probably will. We're already in the year that Back to the Future 2 is in. An alien soldier and all sorts of things. 2015. We're here.
Before I answer that question, just a quick shout out for the Biff Tannen guy who, like, in Back to the Future. That actor who played him, he made if you Google search for like Biff Tannen question song, or you'll get to this play. He does comedy stand-up stuff.
Oh yeah.
He has this sing-a-song. He plays this song about the questions that he always gets from people.
Really?
And it's hilarious.
Huh.
Like, yeah. I don't want to spoil it, but it's like, trust me, it's awesome.
Sounds great. He was very good on Freaks and Geeks as well. I thought he played the gym teacher very skillfully. So yes, 20 years from now, 2035, you'll probably still be alive, still be doing things. But at this point, you will have been a part of people's lives. Some of them, people growing up on their phones and their iPads or 3DSs and what have you. You'll be in their lives for a long time, maybe their entire lives. So how would you want to be seen and remembered by them?
Well, if it comes to like those people, how would I like to remember them? Be remembered by them specifically?
Sure. Or in general, we can also just shoot out to...
In general, feels better because I would probably want to be remembered as the guy behind the game that sets me free.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You just got to make the game first. I feel like it's like... keep thinking of 80s movies for whatever reason. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I don't know if you saw that one.
I've seen that movie. That was a long time ago.
It's a pretty good movie. They're probably going to make a third one. But the underlying story of the movie, outside of the surface level events, is these are two guys who know that they're going to change the world because George Carlin went back in time and told them, like, your band changes the world, and we rewrite all world society around your mantra, which is be excellent to each other. I think it is to yourself and each other. So they know they're going to do this amazing thing that's going to change everybody. But now that they know it, it's like scary to actually ever do it, and they don't know if they'll ever get it done now because the pressure has been applied by like their future selves. Yeah,
and I apply that pressure to myself consciously.
I bet. Yeah. Does it help?
So I mean, I have this idea or vision, I guess, for how I want my future and my life to be, and how I want to...
Oh no, dog attack! Sorry, I have to threaten her with a gun. Somebody rang the doorbell. They should know better.
So of course, I'm open to like this whole thing being a huge failure. I'm just like, oh, well, too bad that didn't work out, whatever. But you know, I'm gonna be like, I'm still gonna plug at it. I'm still gonna go at it because that's my thing. But I start with the end goal in mind. So like, what situation in 20 years time, when I wake up, what kind of place am I gonna be living in? Is it gonna be somebody beside me? Where am I? What's it look like? Where am I? What city am I in? Like, what's my job? Like, what's my day-to-day activities? What are all the events needed to have happened to lead me to this place? So I start with the end goal in mind, and then it's just like, okay, well, I'd have to have a huge success with that game of some sort, or some other game, but let's say that it works. So, and the game success because, well, it went viral, and because I learned about how to make it attractive and fun and informative and transformative, and I acquired the right people, and I found them in there and there and there, and some was by luck, some was by I just searched, you know. And it's amazing when you give your mind a task, it can imagine how a lot of it should work out. So it's almost like I know the path. It may not go exactly as planned, but I have some milestones that I'm working for.
Sure. Huh. It can oftentimes be very intimidating for people to have that goal in mind, to visualize it first. For other people, it's very hard to put one foot in front of the other unless they have a destination that they're excited about. So it sounds like you're lucky enough to be able to have that destination in mind without it intimidating you too much. Instead, it kind of lifts you up.
Yeah. Well, it is still intimidating. In fact, hold on.
Yes?
I'll be right back.
Okay. That's a surprise. Oh, you're not going too far. Thank goodness. What could it be?
So I got here one of the adventure CDs.
Oh, yeah. I recognize the back.
It's almost fitting to read from the inside of it.
Oh, yeah? Great.
Adventure. So, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Who said that? Helen Keller.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
So I mean, she had everything, all the odds stacked against her, and still like did some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But I also wrote some over my other things here. So like, is it okay if I read? This might take a little while.
No, take your time. This is your show. No problem.
Right. Whatever you do in life, there's bound to be risks involved. Some paths will lead you to destruction, or destructoid, I guess. Some will lead you nowhere but to dullness. But every once in a while, you stumble upon a path that feels right, and you keep exploring. The more distance you cover, the better it gets. Chances are that people have ventured down a similar one, but nobody can make the journey for you. And it doesn't quite look the same for everybody. If you want an adventure in your life, you must realize that it's a choice. You choose to break out of the usual route and take the road less traveled. It can be scary, it can be dangerous, but it can also be fun and fulfilling, and ultimately turn out to be the biggest adventure of your life. Somewhere deep down, we all us who are alive want to live, not just be alive. I'm walking my path. It's scary, dangerous, fun, and very fulfilling, all at the same time. I'm creating my adventure as I go. It feels and sounds a bit like the music on this CD.
Yeah, it sure does.
Want to come along?
A
little cheesy there, but it's like, you know.
No, it's very inspiring words, and the kind of words when you read them to yourself as you're listening to music, very nice fit. I would like that. CD to be in stores. Maybe someday. Do they even have CDs in stores anymore? I don't even know. I know
It's in the iTunes store, I guess.
Yeah, that's a CD store. That is what we get these days. Skid Row Trash asks, are there any types of games that you would never want to make music for?
Well, I don't know, like...
I think it's hard because...
if somebody make a game about like how to become the best pedophiliac you can be, then I'm like, yeah, okay. I guess I can draw a line there, you know.
It's
like,
more of a theme. Okay. It's hard with video games. I think we forget about the genres that we aren't interested in, or maybe we actively dislike because we don't play them. But there are tons of genres of game, from military strategy to romance sim to, you know, visual novel. A lot of those, some of those have some pretty yucky stuff in it. But I don't see you being genre adverse in any way.
Well, I mean, I have a certain style to my music, and it doesn't always lend itself to certain types of games. I mean, it's kind of self-sorting who uses me and who wants to use me for a game and what games I want to contribute to. I haven't really had any problems with that. So.
Sure. Do you think your style is most suited to games that make you feel scared and miserable? Because then the music lifts you back up out of... This is what I've said about your music. I've said it about Danny Baranowski's music. He's been on the show before. I've said it about Mega Man music in general, especially the first 2 or 3 of those games. They are so punishing, and they can leave you feeling pessimistic if it weren't for the fact that the music kicks right back in and then rewards you like, oh, no, you get to listen to this music some more. You died, which sucks, but the upside is you're still in this fun, interesting place where something good might happen, and it's the music that's really conveying that feeling. It's certainly not dying 20 times in a row in V. That doesn't make you feel optimistic, but the music balances that out and keeps you going.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and it's such a huge compliment. You know, every time I hear it, it's like just wonderful. I'm not drawn to horrible games or whatever. Like, games like the sad where you die a lot. Like, it's like Megaman's not sad. He's not sad. Like, it's
if you played, you can hack Mega Man, and maybe you've done this. So you play it without the music. It's like Saving Private Ryan. It is like, how horrible can now that guy is going to kill me? Now I've died in this way? It's a horror show. But the music, of course, turns it into like an awesome rock concert that you're happy to be in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, but the question was like, what kind of games am I making music for? Well,
yeah, that's right.
Self-selecting, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. But if somebody came to you and said, we want you to try to make somber, depressing music for like a 2D Last of Us or something, would you take the job, or would you say, well, you know, you might?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's possible. I am on board with a game called The Power of Greed, which is a little platform thing, and that has a multi-layered sound thing where the more you play it, the more there is this loop of music playing, and the more levels you play, the longer you get, the higher you level up, the more instruments get added to the same song over and over. So it uses the music to become better and better, basically. The more you win, and if you lose, you like lose it all and stuff like that. And that has a little more creepy tone to it, almost like a little spooky, horror-ish. Not really horror, but ghostly, I guess.
Sounds great. Yeah, I think some of the V soundtrack is ghostly as well. It's not all happiness. There's mystery. There's questions being pitted to you with the music, which is good. You don't just want to feel kind of a one-dimensional bubblegum joy in the music for these kinds of games. You also want to have, like, am I going to be able to survive? What's going to happen next? Having that question, that curiosity, as you put it earlier, being pitted to you, just like you want to be in conversation with another person. You want the game to be cueing your personality as well. We're getting cues from Sinistar, and he is absolutely right. We only have 1 minute left in the show. I got carried away. We have time for this. The one last question from Edgar Anukuwaga, perhaps. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong, Edgar. He asks, do you think people learn to make music? Do you think people learning to make music should learn music theory first? What tips can you give for just making music other than push buttons and follow tutorials?
We need. Well, I would.
I know, right?
I would actually go with, like, make sure you're having fun. Just make sure you're having fun. Everything flows from there, and yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If your teacher, if you're using a teacher or tutorial, doesn't make it fun for you, you're in the wrong place. So make it fun.
Sure. Fun will happen when you're tapping into passion and you're compatible with what you're working with and who you're working with. It is a good, I think that's the reason why we have fun, is to be a way to get a positive reward for doing the right thing, at least in general. Same with boredom, we have that to, like, try to push us forward when we're not meeting our potential. So you can listen to fun and boredom and see if they lead you in the right direction. Rats! I talk too much.
Wrap it up on time, Ron.
Yeah, we do. We're wrapping it up on time. You are SoulEye. Magnus, I shouldn't do Pålsson.
Yeah, that word.
Yeah, either one's fine with you?
You're going to do Pålsson. Maybe music for a game named Pålsson as well.
Yeah, Pulse Man was a pretty awesome Genesis game. Yeah, he's doing it. He's got to go. You can be found on Twitter. You are MP SoulEye on Twitter, is that correct? Yes. And you are on Bandcamp. You have games on Steam Greenlight. Look up this man. He's led a very interesting life. He's got a great discography on his Bandcamp account as well. As for me, I am at TronNuts on Twitter. You can watch the show later on YouTube. Holmes show. You put that after the .com. And then iTunes, Libsyn. Listen to it later if you want. All right, we did it. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.